friends, that means let's go. So, Jumbo friends, and welcome. Good morning. My name is Maddie. I'll be your safari driver as we journey out into the beautiful Harambe Wildlife Reserve. Is this anyone's first safari ever? Yes. Oh, a couple of hands. Well, welcome to you, friends. Welcome back to everyone else. I'm excited to show you the reserve. A couple of quick tips and reminders before we head on in. Please remember to keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle, as well as remaining seated at all times. It's a very bumpy road ahead, so this is for your safety. If you've got little ones, they can sit on your lap. Please keep them on the same lap from start to finish. Do not hold them up in the air or hand them from lap to lap, even if I am fully stopped. You're also going to want to have your cameras out and ready if you're hoping to get some good pictures, because I won't be able to stop for every animal, and likewise, they don't always stop for us. They are wild animals after all. Hold on tightly to any of your personal belongings, because if anything should fall from the truck, I can't stop to help you retrieve it. And remember, it's going to be pretty bumpy. Now lastly, keep in mind that we are headed into these animals' homes, so we don't want to bother them. So let's refrain from loud noises around the animals or calling to them in any way. Thank you so much. Now with all of that being said, let's get started. We're going first into the Little Ituri Forest, where we found our first species. We'll see the okapi up here on our right side. The okapi is a reddish-brown animal with striped front and back legs. There are two of them here on the right. That species actually wasn't discovered by Western civilization until 1901. They're really good at hiding. They were kind of thought of as the African unicorn before that point, really rarely seen. Now up here on our left side, also some shy animals. The greater kudu are tall and tan, and they don't have horns, which tells us they're females of that species. We're also seeing the bongos. Bongos are orange with white stripes. All bongos have horns. They are large and backward sloped, and that helps them to navigate through the thick brush where they live here in the forest. Now speaking of horns, let's spot a rhino. There's actually two black rhinos, but I think this one is going to be the better view. The first one over to our left side, looking a whole lot more like a clay-colored rhino. This is a black rhino. The smaller of the rhino species, it only weighs 3,000 pounds. White rhinos are much larger, and we could also see those along the way. Another black rhino up against the clay wall. Now it's lucky to see one. It is extraordinary lucky to see two, because they are super rare animals. Their numbers are dwindling in the wild. Only about 5,000 black rhino left, and that's because they are being poached for their horns. People think that their horns have medicinal purposes, but they do not. They're made from keratin, exactly what our fingernails and hair is made from. Two large black and white birds over there to our left, called the saddle-billed stork. Now they are probably a mated pair, because there are two of them close together, and we would know for sure if we were going to see one male and one female if we were close enough to see their eye color. Female saddle-billed storks have bright yellow eyes, males have brown eyes. Pretty rare trait in the animal world. Now headed from the forest toward the Safi River, we'll see an animal that we normally find in the water on land. Hippos coming up here on the right side. I'm going to pause right beside them. Nile hippopotamus, looking like they're waiting for the sun to hit them in that spot. Now you also see some hippos across the way to our left in the water. That's how we normally see them, because they've got pretty sensitive skin, so the water helps to protect their skin from the sun. Now, when they're fully submerged, they can stay that way for about 8 minutes at a time. That's how long a hippo can hold its breath. Now, we're seeing plenty of pink-backed pelicans here, too. Those are the large white birds on the island, and they get their name because the skin on their backs takes on a dusty pink color during their mating season. We have an animal group named for the pelicans. It is a pod of pelicans, and the hippos have one, too. It is a bloat of hippos. So it looks like down to our left we'll be seeing a predator, Nile crocodiles. Nile crocodiles will weigh 500 pounds and get to be 16 feet long. Please remain fully seated. We're heading across the bridge. bite forces in all of nature. It's over 2,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. But sometimes we see crocodiles on land with those powerful jaws just hanging wide open, and that looks quite menacing, but that's actually just how they cool themselves off. The crocodiles don't have sweat glands like you and I do, so they need to open those jaws to help lower their body temperature. It's much like how our dogs at home will pant when they're overheated. Up to the right side of the truck, a unique looking tree. It's called a baobab tree. It will remain leafless for about 9 months out of the year. So most of the time it looks like somebody planted it with its roots in the air, completely upside down. And for that reason, we have one of our nicknames for the tree. We call it the upside down tree. Now the baobab is a good sign that we are headed out onto the savannah, which is home to many animals that you might recognize. Animals like giraffe, elephants, plenty of different types of antelope, and even big cats will call this area home. It looks like right at the base of the hill we'll be greeted by a quintessential savannah animal, a giraffe. Maasai giraffe standing straight to our right side. Now that is a small giraffe. That is, I believe, the youngest member of this tower. His name is Humphrey. Now he looks small, but only in comparison to other giraffes. Giraffe calves are born at least 6 feet tall, so they are big right from the start. But Maasai giraffes have a lot of growing to do. They'll be 18 to 20 feet tall as adults. And I did mention their animal group name. It is perfectly fitting for them. They are a tower of giraffe. Make sure your little ones are seated on your lap or on the seat beside, please, friends. Please do not allow your children to stand on your lap or the seat. Jumbo friends, even all the way in the back of the truck, please make sure that your little ones are seated on your lap or on the seat beside. Thank you so much. Now there are a couple predators back here past the den on our left. Back in that corner, they're orange, black, and white, laying almost completely flat. Those are the African painted dogs. And there's the Ankoli cattle also over in that direction. That animal has giant horns that look so heavy because they are so big, but they are mostly hollow inside. They've got a honeycomb-like structure. They don't weigh nearly as much as they look like they do. Up on the hillside, a dark brown antelope kind of faced away from us. That's called the sable antelope. And much closer to us here, we'll see a type of zebra called the Hartman's mountain zebra. Every single zebra will have a slightly different stripe pattern. This is just like how we have a fingerprint, so they can be identified that way. And a baby zebra, which we call a foal, will imprint on its mother's stripe pattern so it can tell her apart from the rest of the group of zebras. Now that big cone of earth coming up out of the ground kind of in front of where they were, right beside the truck, that is a termite mound, and you'll see them all over the place here on the savannah. The termite mounds are made from 3 things, that is dung, dirt, and spit. They bake to be as hard as concrete here in the African sun. So if you see any of those mounds a little bit more worn down, it might be that a larger animal has been through and used them as a scratching post. Sometimes elephants like to do that. Now, just like with the zebras, the wild dogs and the giraffe will all have individualized coat patterns. So every single Maasai giraffe you're seeing here could be told apart by its spot patterns. Spot patterns are also how we can tell that this is a Maasai giraffe, that they all are. They've got an irregular shape to the edge of their spots. Reticulated giraffe are an entirely different type. They'll have a much more stamp-like spot pattern. It'll be more regular. That's actually the type that's pictured up on the spotting guide, which is right above your head if you'd like to see if you can tell the difference. Really good look at a giraffe.
What happened?
I'll see my favorite type of antelope coming up here, the eland. Actually, my favorite animal on the reserve. So closest to us here on the right is a female eland, and then further up, a male of the same species. Look how big he is. He weighs 2,000 pounds and gets to be 6 feet tall from the shoulder. So that is a massive antelope. Then we're actually going to see one of the smallest types of antelope, the springbok, over there in that same direction, tiny and tan with a white underside. That is a springbok, fully grown at 3 feet tall. Now the eland that we spotted, they're massive, right? That animal weighs a literal ton, but if it were standing right beside the truck, could actually leap into the seat beside you with no head start. They can jump 6 to 8 feet in the air from a standing position. Now, of course, the springbok, there's a couple more of them up to your right side. They are also good jumpers. That is what they're named for. The springbok can jump twice their height into the air at 6 feet up and 13 feet forward. And they're really fast too. Of course, the speed and agility really helps them out when it comes to evading predators out here on the savanna. So it looks like we're going to be seeing a much bigger animal over this way. It is an African elephant. A little bit in the distance over to your right side, faced away from us. That is an African elephant. Now up here on the rocks to our left, those are mandrills. Can you see the monkeys to your left? So elephant on the right, mandrills to the left. Now they're just kind of running around on the ground, and this is kind of what they do. Mandrills are terrestrial. That means they spend most of their time on the ground. So they don't have a long tail that would enable them to jump, to leap from branch to branch, help with their balance and such. Mandrill tail is only about 3 inches long, but that does still qualify them as a monkey and not an ape. Apes won't have tails at all. Now way over your right shoulder, you could potentially see that African elephant. Again, we're just kind of seeing parts of it there. It's almost too close for us to see it well. However, I am hopeful that we'll see some more elephants up ahead, because I know that across this bridge and around the corner there is some red clay. Red clay is a really good place for us to search for more elephants because they will eat it. In it over to our right side, and elephant footprints trailing off to elephants. There's a much better view for us. They're all African elephants. Notice the shape of their ears. It is kind of roughly in the shape of the continent of Africa, which I think is quite the coincidence for this animal. Now they're going to put those big Africa-shaped ears to good use. Elephants can lower their body temperature by a full 15 degrees just by flapping their ears, which is super helpful because they're usually dealing with a whole lot of heat out here on the savanna. Now the elephant that we spotted before was by itself, and there were more of the elephants that we've spotted over in this direction, which tells us that these are probably females. They'll spend more time in larger social groups and families, while males will go off on their own, sometimes forming a smaller herd called a bachelor herd. Country, and next we're going to head around Flamingo Island, which is home to flamingos. The type that we're going to see is the greater flamingos. Make sure that everyone is fully seated, please, friends, even if I am stopped. The greater flamingos are the lightest pink of all flamingo species, but they are not always pink. If you look closely, you'll see some that are more of a light gray color. Those are young flamingos. They'll be fully grown at about a year old, but won't be fully pink until about 2 years old. So they are hatched, tiny gray fluff balls, and they get their pink shade as they grow from the brine shrimp and krill that they eat. They are very social animals, so it's common that we find them in a big group like that one. We call it a flamboyance of flamingos. So a much bigger species of bird here to our left. These are female ostriches. We can tell because they've got gray feathers. Male ostriches have black feathers. They are the largest birds on Earth, and they cannot fly, but on land, ostriches are surprisingly fast. They run upwards of 40 miles an hour, which is super helpful when it comes to getting away from predators, just like how the springbok are going to use their speed for that too. And the ostrich will still use their wings not to help them fly, but to help them turn while they're running at top speed. It's going to help with their agility. Now we also found a mud wallow there, which is a good sign of rhino activity, even though no one was going for a dip. What we have found is a cheetah. Look way up on the hillside to your left, friends. Can you see it laying down in the grass? Parallel to the truck, face towards the front of the truck, that is a cheetah. Now continue to keep your eyes peeled in that direction because we might see one or two more. They do blend in pretty well. The cheetahs are up in the shade, which is pretty common. Animals will seek out shade out here on the savannah. We'll see another one here kind of over your left shoulder. Now the cheetahs are one of the fastest animals on the planet. They move from 0 to 60 miles an hour in only 3 seconds. And they actually hunt during the day, which is going to set them apart from most other large predators that hunt overnight. Now this is a good place for us to look for another predator. It's called a kopje, this large rock formation. It's a good place for a predator to be because they would be up above everything. They can see what's going on down below. And it's also a good place for an animal to just take a nap on the warm, sunny rocks. We're going to head all the way around the rocks and hopefully see a predator up in that direction. But actually, yeah, in front of us here, there is a white rhino. It's up on the hillside, so it's going to be on the right. The white rhino is significantly larger than the black rhino. It weighs 5,000 pounds. That makes it a ton bigger. Now there are lions up here on our left. We're seeing a female and a male, and we can tell the male because he has a mane that can weigh up to 40 pounds in and of itself. Really good view of the lion. So there's actually another lioness. I'm going to pause again in just a moment. Now you all probably know their animal group name, right? Do you know what we call a group of lions? Pride. Oh yeah, it's a pride of lions. Now the females are the ones that do most of the hunting while the males will stay home and take care of the cubs. But they will all sleep and rest for most of their day. About 20 hours out of a lion's day is spent resting so that they can conserve energy to hunt successfully overnight. Now we are going to see another ostrich. It is also a female because of its gray feathers. A type of antelope over this way too, the bontebok, is a small brown antelope that's going to be on your right side, actually related to the wildebeest. Further back, another look at the white rhino. Pause here, you should see it pretty well. And past the rhino and the bontebok, right by the ostrich, some large yellow eggs. Now, if you're thinking that those two things are connected, you are totally right. They are, in fact, ostrich eggs. Those eggs will weigh 3 pounds. That's about equivalent to 2 dozen chicken eggs. And they are sturdy enough for a fully grown human to stand on them without the egg cracking. Now, when we saw the white rhino, it probably came across your mind that that animal is decidedly not white. You are totally right again. The white rhino is named not for its color, but as a mispronunciation of the Afrikaans term wide, meaning wide, for its wide rectangular front lip, which is perfectly suited for grazing on tall grass out on the savannah where they live. Now we are headed into the final part of the reserve where there is an animal that will probably steal your heart. There are Nigerian dwarf goats, which are already small. However, there are also baby Nigerian dwarf goats, and they're going to be hanging out on the hoardings truck. I'm definitely going to pause for that. Oh, that's my favorite one right here by on the hood of the truck. Adorable, right? They are a small species of dairy goat that makes really rich milk, which is great as a source of nutritional value, but also a source of income for the village. They can sell the milk and things made with goat's milk. Now with that grand baby goat finale, we are headed off of the reserve, but I think that we spotted some truly cool species along the way. We saw black and white rhino, a tower of giraffe, and even a pride of lions. Unfortunately, many of these animals are endangered in the wild, but we can do plenty to help them out, including reduce, reuse, and recycle. One specific thing that we can recycle to help out animals that are dealing with deforestation is your old small electronics, things like cell phones, tablets, and iPods. Coltan is used to produce these items, and that's one of the things that's being mined for in areas where these animals are losing land. So the more of it we responsibly recycle here, the better off these animals are in the wild. Now, if I have any wilderness explorers on the truck, the name of it is the Simba 1. You've been aboard the one and only Simba 1. Now, if you'd like to come on safari again, feel free to do so because no two are the same. We're doing them until 5:15 this evening, so if you are in line by that time, you will get on another safari. All right, I'll be dropping you all off shortly. Now is a great time to double check those rows, look around you. You don't want to leave anything behind here in